Hi YouTube, I'm Nick, lead map designer of SoulsCraft. As you've probably seen from our other videos, we are an upcoming hardcore RPG experience, sort of in the same vein as games like Dark Souls and Demon Souls. Our gameplay and visuals are heavily inspired by Dark Souls, and basically we're just trying to bring the hardcore dark fantasy RPG experience to Minecraft. So, today, with this video, I'm going to be bringing you through a tutorial on how to build a sort of Weeping Willow style tree. You know, when you think trees in Minecraft, usually you think of strong branches with bushy leaves and you know, sort of fluffy leaves and such like that. But this style is kind of different than that, and it's not really something I've seen a lot of tutorials on, so I decided to try to teach the world how to build in this style. So, without further ado, let's get into the tutorial itself. So, you'll notice probably that I use Voxel Sniper along with this Voxel Box mod pack, which just adds a GUI layer on top of the Voxel Sniper plugin. So you just select visually which brushes you're going to use, and it sends the commands to the server. I find it to be a much easier, you know, way of doing things. But of course, all commands used I will put on the screen so you can see them. Now, to start off with, you know, we're just sort of building up the trunk here, and I'm using a disc brush. And you'll notice that the wood texture is actually six-sided. It has the bark on all six sides. That is a data value of the log block. It's a data value of 12, I believe. So that's a little 13. Sorry, it's 13, as you can see from the chat there. But yeah, no, that's a very good trick to know, you know, because I always hated, before I knew that trick, I always hated how the tops and bottoms would be the cut wood texture. It doesn't really make sense for an actual tree trunk. So, you know, that's a very good, whenever you're building trees, that's a good thing to use, and you can only really do that with Voxel Sniper. So, okay, now we're going to begin on the actual branches here. And I'm just using a snipe brush, because again, I can't place blocks and have them be that six-sided texture, so I'm forced to use a snipe brush, which I do pretty much anyway, since I find it easier just to open up the Vox. I'm so used to the Voxel Box mod pack that it's actually faster for me to open up the menu and get the block I want than it is to get the block in creative mode. So, you know, these branches are pretty basic. It's pretty, you're gonna have to pretty much eyeball it. You want them to be a curved, droopy look, so like they're growing out, but then at the ends they're just weighed down by the weight of the leaves, because willow trees, their branches aren't strong like oak trees, they droop down from the weight of the leaves. So here you can see I'm just eyeballing the curve, which is the best way. You know, you can get circle and curve formulas, but I find just eyeballing it to be the best approach. And of course, to start off with, you're going to have hard corners, but then you can just break them, as you can see I'm doing, to give it a thinner look. And don't be afraid to have parts where they're only connected by a single corner. You'll find that from a distance, from the ground, it looks good. It just gives it a actual, you know, thin branch look. So don't be afraid to do that. And also, with a willow tree, since we are going to be pretty much covering all the branches with leaves, it's good to not have as many branches as you probably would if you were doing any other sort of tree, like an oak tree or something like that, since most of the branches of a willow tree are actually pretty much too thin to see. They're going to be we're going to have those in the form of hanging leaves. So for these branches, these main branches, it's good to not have so many, as you can see we're doing. Okay, so now that we've got our basic branches done, we're going to put leaves on them. And as you can see, I'm just using the GUI, but again, the commands will be on the screen for you to use. To start off with the leaves, we're just going to be putting a single layer of leaves on top of every branch. This is just a good you know, first step to covering the branches. To be doing more detailed stuff, this is just going to be a first step, and to provide a base material of leaves to work from. So after that's done, we'll start we'll start doing the more detail-oriented leaf work. Okay, so now that we've got a single layer of leaves over every branch, we're going to start, you know, thickening it up. And the way I do that is, you know, just add a leaf block, the block underneath each top layer of leaves, as you can see. You know, it's just a basic layer of leaves before we start adding details. Okay, so now that we have a basic layer of leaves of the entire tree, we're going to start adding the hanging branches. Now keep in mind, in a willow tree, these are actually branches. These aren't just leaves. The branches of a willow tree will actually hang down like this, just from the weight of the leaves, because the branches don't grow very strong, so the weight of the leaves actually hangs down. So that's what we're going to be doing, is just adding columns of leaves of various lengths that just sort of hang down. And as you can see for this, I'm using the snipe brush with the gunpowder. And if you don't know, if you're not familiar with Voxel Sniper, which this tutorial I pretty much assume that you are, when you're using the snipe brush, the arrow will change the block you're pointing at, while the gunpowder will place the block where you aim. And here that comes in quite handy, because as you can see, I'm just at ground level looking up and just holding down the right click button, and that'll just, you know, make a quick column of leaves. I don't have to actually place in each individual block. So as you can see, that's a real advantage to building. Voxel Sniper actually gives you the ability to build with using only an arrow and gunpowder in your inventory, which is pretty cool. It's a pretty powerful world editing building tool, you know, not just for large terraforming things, but just for detailed building like this. I haven't put any log or leaf block into my inventory yet in this entire video, and I've just been using Voxel Sniper's snipe brush, and it serves the purpose pretty well. Now, for things like stairs and things that have half slabs, anything that has orientation to it, then it's probably better to actually build with the blocks. But for just simple block placing, I find Voxel Sniper snipe brush to do the trick just fine, and better in fact, as we're seeing here, because if I were to place these blocks individually, I would have to fly up, fly back down. You know, it's not a huge deal, but it's just a little faster to do with the Voxel Sniper. And take note of the spacing. You don't want it to be too uniform. It looks here like here you can see I'm sort of placing them every other block, and that will look good especially when they're varied and, you know, they're where they are on the branch. But you want to be sort of irregular about it. You don't want it to look too uniform. You know, placing two directly adjacent to each other every now and again is a good thing to do. You know, because this is a tree, it grew naturally, so you want it to look sort of random. Also, varying the length of the column of leaves is a good trick as well. And yeah, that'll give it a good hanging, droopy look. So now what I'm going to do is switch the leaf type, switch to oak leaves. And here, as you can see, I'm using the arrow instead of the gunpowder, and that'll just replace whatever block I look at. It won't place a block, it'll replace it. And this definitely is easier than breaking and replacing the blocks. That's what Voxel Sniper is actually built for, was the ability to place and replace blocks from a distance. Hence the name Voxel Sniper. You're sniping the voxels. But yeah, and so what the second leaf type does is if you look at a willow tree, the hanging leafy droopy bits don't just look like clumps of leaves, they look, you know, like hundreds of branches with leaves growing off of them, and that's really hard to achieve in Minecraft since all we have are blocks to work with. So a little trick that I've discovered is if you vary the leaf type, it gives it more depth, gives it more dimension, makes it look less like, especially if it's a large tree, you know, this is kind of a small normal size tree, but if you're doing like a huge tree, varying the leaf type will give it a lot of dimensionality, a lot of depth, which is good. You know, the more depth, the more we can promote the illusion that it isn't made of blocks, the better it'll look, just in general, in Minecraft. So, varying the leaf type is a very good way to do that, I've found. Okay, so now that we've created our droopy leaf bits and we've given them depth and dimensionality by changing up the leaf type every so often, as you can see, I've done that on the top as well. Now we're going to start doing details, and one of those details is going to be vines. The vines, especially in a willow type tree, give a really, really good, like, it looks a lot like the branches start thick and then thin out near the bottom. So what I'm going to do to start off with is just place vines on the bottom of each leaf, hanging leaf branch, clump of branches type thing, and just grow them all the way down to the ground using these wool blocks here. Yeah, and then again, that'll just give it the look that the clumps of branches are thinning out as they grow to the bottom, which is what we want. That's what willow trees look like. And since, again, this is something that involves orientation, it's a bit easier to do this just by manually placing the blocks. I don't even think you can do vines properly with Voxel Sniper. I've never really tried, but if you could probably experiment with that, get away, like, find a more efficient way of doing this than what I've done here with the wool blocks. Usually when I do stuff with vines, I just place them and let them grow. I don't bother trying to do what I'm doing here, but for the sake of this tutorial, and if you want it done fast, then this is what you would do. You know, when I work, I usually work on multiple builds at once on the SoulsCraft server, so it would be kind of a waste of time to do this. And if you're working on something large, I would advise you to not do this. I would advise you to just place the vines and let them grow. But for this, and if you're doing a single build, it's a good thing. And then you can also control the length of the vines themselves as well when you do this, and you can stop them from growing by placing something like a invisible ladder, or maybe a block 36, which is the moving extended piston head. You can do that with Voxel Sniper if you just select, I don't remember the block ID of block 30. Block ID of block 36 is obviously 36, but invisible ladder is another one that works. I don't remember the ID of that off the top of my head. But yeah, and if you just place one of those on the bottom of the vines, that'll stop them from growing, and the block will be invisible. So yeah, that's another level of detail. Didn't do that for this tree, but you can definitely do that if you don't want the vines to grow all the way to the ground. So as you can see, I'm just continuing to add vines. That's probably the most time-consuming part of this, the most tedious. But it's really important that you don't overdo it on the vines. I've seen so many trees that are just basically covered in vines. They look good, but not when overused. But I think with that, this tree looks pretty good. This is a pretty good tree. You could add roots to it. I decided not to, since it's not really that sort of tree. But yeah, so I hope this tutorial was useful, and please like and subscribe and favorite if you enjoy seeing our content. There's definitely more videos to come, more tutorials, more dev blogs, just, you know, lots of stuff. You know, we're gonna be doing lots of demonstrations of plugins and builds on the server. It's gonna be exciting, so definitely keep up with our activity. It's gonna be a fun time. It's gonna be exciting. Yeah. See you next time.